Is it possible for a sequel to be so fundamentally broken that it makes you appreciate its predecessor in ways you never imagined? That's exactly what happened to me when I first watched Mortal Kombat Annihilation of 1997, with hopeful anticipation that quickly transformed into bewildered disappointment. This American martial arts fantasy film, marking John R. Leonetti's directorial debut, serves as a textbook example of how not to follow up a successful video game adaptation. The movie attempts to continue the story from the 1995 Mortal Kombat film as Earth's warriors face a new threat from the merged realms, but what should have been an epic continuation instead became a cautionary tale about rushed production and misunderstood source material. The film's premise revolves around Shao Kahn's invasion of Earth after the merger of dimensions, forcing Liu Kang and his allies to prevent the complete annihilation of humanity within 6 days. While this setup had potential for grand storytelling, the execution transforms what could have been an epic saga into a series of disconnected fight sequences loosely held together by the thinnest of narrative threads. The plot moves at breakneck speed without allowing viewers to understand character motivations or the stakes involved, creating a disorienting experience that feels more like channel surfing through random fight scenes than watching a cohesive movie. At its core, Mortal Kombat Annihilation attempts to explore themes of destiny, sacrifice, and the eternal struggle between good and evil. The concept of warriors chosen by fate to protect their realm should resonate deeply, especially given the rich mythology of the source material. However, the film's approach to these themes feels superficial and underdeveloped. The idea of transformation and growth, symbolized through various character abilities, and the notion of animality could have provided profound commentary on human nature and our primal instincts. Instead, these elements are introduced haphazardly without proper context or meaning, reducing potentially powerful themes to mere visual spectacle. The characters in this film represent one of its most glaring weaknesses. Liu Kang, who should serve as our heroic anchor, lacks the charisma and depth that Rob and Shaw brought to the original film. His journey feels mechanical rather than emotional, moving through plot points without any real character development. Sonya Blade and Jax, portrayed by Sandra Hess and Lynn Red Williams, respectively, share no chemistry despite their supposed partnership, making their interactions feel stilted and unconvincing. The film introduces numerous fighters from the game series, but treats them more like action figures to be displayed rather than characters with motivations and relationships. The acting performances throughout the film range from wooden to actively distracting. Unlike cult classics where poor acting becomes endearing through sheer enthusiasm or camp value, the performances in Annihilation feel lifeless and disengaged. The actors seem uncomfortable with both the dialogue and the fantastical elements they are supposed to inhabit. This creates a peculiar disconnect where even the most dramatic moments fall flat, preventing any emotional investment in the characters' fates. The lack of chemistry between supposed allies and the absence of genuine menace from the villains further undermine any tension the film attempts to build. Visually, Mortal Kombat Annihilation represents a significant step backwards from its predecessor.
The CGI effects, particularly the creature designs and transformation sequences, look unfinished and amateurish even by 1997 standards.
Green screen work is poorly integrated with visible seams and mismatched lighting that constantly remind viewers that they are watching artificial compositions rather than believable environments. The dragon sequences during the animality transformations are particularly jarring, resembling early computer graphic experiments rather than the mystical creatures they are meant to represent. These technical failings become especially painful when the film recaps scenes from the original movie, creating an unflattering comparison that highlights just how much production value was lost. The cinematography lacks the dynamic energy that martial arts films require. Camera movements feel static and uninspired, failing to capture the kinetic excitement that should define fight sequences. The shot composition often feels arbitrary, as if scenes were filmed without consideration for visual flow or dramatic impact. Color palettes that should enhance the otherworldly nature of the story instead appears muddy and inconsistent, contributing to an overall sense of visual incoherence that matches the narrative confusion. The film's sound design and musical score, while attempting to maintain the electronic rock fusion that worked in the original, feel disconnected from the action on screen. Musical cues often feel mismatched to dramatic moments, and the lack of memorable themes or motives means the score fails to enhance emotional beats or create lasting impressions. Sound effects during fight sequences lack the visceral impact needed to make the combat feel consequential, further diminishing the stakes of each encounter. Despite its numerous flaws, Mortal Kombat Annihilation does achieve something remarkable in its sheer audacity. The film attempts to cram an enormous amount of video game lore and characters into its runtime, creating a dense tapestry of references that fans of the series can identify, even if they are poorly executed. Some fight sequences, when viewed in isolation, showcase impressive martial arts choreography and stunt work. The film's commitment to bringing obscure game characters to life, regardless of narrative necessity, demonstrates a kind of completionist dedication that could be admirable under different circumstances. However, these occasional bright spots are overshadowed by fundamental structural problems that make the film nearly unwatchable as a coherent narrative experience. The editing creates jarring transitions that make characters appear and disappear without explanation, as if they're traveling through invisible portals between scenes. Fight sequences lack proper build-up or resolution, making them feel like isolated video game cutscenes rather than meaningful story beats. The film's treatment of beloved game lore, particularly the relationships between characters like Sub-Zero and Smoke, demonstrates a complete misunderstanding of what made the source material compelling. The most frustrating aspect of Annihilation is how it squanders the goodwill and foundation established by the 1995 Mortal Kombat film. Where the first movie succeeded in creating a believable tournament structure that allowed for natural character development and fight progression, the sequel abandons all pretense of logical storytelling. Characters who should share deep bond based on game lore are reduced to strangers meeting for the first time, while new mythological elements are introduced that contradict established canon without serving any narrative purpose. My personal experience with this film has evolved over the years from disappointment to a kind of morbid fascination. Initially, I hoped for a worthy successor to the 1995 film that would expand the universe and provide satisfying character arcs. Instead, I witnessed a movie that seemed actively hostile to its own source material and audience expectations. Yet, there's something almost hypnotic about its failures. The way it confidently presents nonsensical plot developments, the commitment to terrible special effects, and the complete disconnect between ambition and execution create a viewing experience unlike anything else in cinema. Comparing Annihilation to other video game adaptations reveals just how unique its failures are. While many game-to-film adaptations struggle while translating interactive experiences to passive viewing, most at least attempt to understand their source material's appeal. Annihilation feels like it was made by people who had never played the games or watched the 1995 movie, resulting in a product that satisfies neither newcomers nor fans. After multiple viewings over the years, I've come to appreciate Mortal Kombat Annihilation as an unintentional masterpiece of incompetence. It serves as a perfect case study in how not to make a sequel, how not to adapt video game properties, and how technical limitations can destroy even the most promising concepts. The film works best as a communal viewing experience where audiences can bond over shared bewilderment at its creative choices. For viewers considering whether to watch this film, my recommendation depends entirely on your expectations and viewing circumstances. If you are seeking a genuine martial arts fantasy epic or a faithful Mortal Kombat adaptation, look elsewhere. However, if you are interested in studying film failures, hosting a bad movie night with friends, or experiencing one of cinema's most notorious sequels, Annihilation provides plenty of material for discussion and mockery. The film has earned its place in the pantheon of so bad it's good movies. Though even that designation requires patience and the right viewing context. Ultimately, Mortal Kombat Annihilation stands as a reminder that successful franchises require more than recognizable characters and familiar settings. They need understanding, respect for the source material, and competent execution across all aspects of production. This film's legacy serves as both entertainment and education, a cautionary tale wrapped in unintentional comedy that continues to baffle and amuse viewers nearly 3 decades after its release. Whether you find it entertainingly awful or simply awful will depend largely on your tolerance for ambitious failure and your ability to find humor in cinematic disaster. That's my opinion on Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Do you agree with my thoughts? What are your thoughts on the film? Let me know in the comments. Please drop a like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.
Never save me if my walls came down. That is underwater, you would let me drown. Watching as I suffocate. Darling, pull the trigger, honey, steal my crown. Choke me till I black out, put your hands around. Cut out my heart.